Okay, hello viewers, hello internet, hello all. I'm still not quite accustomed to this genre of video making where I just kind of stare into a camera and hope that people are listening and appreciating what I'm saying, but who knows? There's a first time for everything. Actually, this wouldn't be quite the first time, but you know what I mean. Okay, so just wanted to comment briefly on an interesting encounter that I had yesterday in Houston, Texas with Congressman Al Green, who is a Democrat from Texas representing the Houston area. So, Congressman Green was on the scene at a protest that was happening short distance away from the Super Bowl, which concluded yesterday in dramatic fashion, as I'm sure everyone is aware and thrilled by. But earlier that afternoon, there was this protest that was held in a park a little distance away, 2 miles or something from the arena where where the Super Bowl happened. Okay, so I noticed that I was on the scene just to cover the event, see if there's anything interesting happening, and so on and so forth. So what I did was I noted that, oh, Congressman Al Green is addressing the rally. I'm going to see if I can speak to him on camera afterward. And sure enough, he was willing to grant an interview, but the interview sort of went in a bizarre, hostile direction. So watch it for yourself. I'm going to include it in the description box here in the video. Um, but a lot of I think the philosophy that I have when I encounter an elected official who is somebody who wields power and somebody who is in a position of authority is I want to probe their beliefs to the extent that I'm able to, given time constraints and whatever other factors are involved. I want to maybe point out inconsistencies that they may be espousing and try to get them to account for those inconsistencies and maybe get to the root of why there's an inconsistency in the first place. So, whereas I think other journalists, and there were other journalists on the scene that day who did just want to give Congressman Green a platform to expound on whatever it is he wanted to expound on, why he was there, the profundity of the moment, and other sorts of cliches. So, what happened was he gave his triumphant remarks, and then afterwards he was sort of milling around, and and my camera person kind of got up to him and asked him if he would grant an interview, and he did. And I think he was probably expecting me to just, like I mentioned, just give him a platform to just riff and just kind of rattle off the standard pablum, I would say. And he did kind of engage in some pablum. That's why I wanted it to be a little bit adversarial with him. Like when he addressed the rally, he actually got the crowd chanting "Justice for Merrick Garland." Now that's just silly. Whatever you might think about the entire Merrick Garland episode, obviously the Republicans definitely employed some questionable tactics, and you might even say outrageous tactics, to block Merrick Garland from being appointed to the Supreme Court. But the idea that he's some sort of martyr who needs a crowd to chant for him, as if he's in prison or something, was a little ridiculous. But that's what you get when you have Democrats at high levels participating in ostensibly grassroots events like this. And it was a grassroots event, but it was organized in part by the Harris County Democratic Party in conjunction with other groups, including the Democratic Socialists of America, which is a up-and-coming formation, I would say. And I did talk to some of the leaders of the Houston chapter in the video, so you could see that if you want. But there are some contradictions there, and it's I think worth just trying to suss those out if you have the opportunity. So that's what I wanted to do, and Congressman Al Green got a little testy with me, to the point that he cut the interview short abruptly and offered me a condescending handshake and said, "Oh, you must be a Trump supporter." Now, why did he make that allegation? and I need to just state up front, and I've stated this countless times, but it's never going to be enough. I am not a Trump supporter. I've never have been. It's kind of a McCarthyite way of putting it, but no, I am not now, and no, I have never been a Trump supporter. And I didn't even ask him a question that could be conceivably construed as pro-Trump, but he took it that way, which I think shows you something about the shallowness of his thinking potentially. So hopefully that was it was illuminating to just bring that out. Because what I asked him was, I think it was pretty simple. It was, um, can you acknowledge that the Obama administration or Barack Obama presided over more deportations of persons than any other administration in the history of the United States? And that's just a true fact. So I think in order to proceed with any discussion of how horrible Trump's policies are, and they are definitely bad in a lot of ways, and I've been very vocal about that where it's warranted, but if you really want to place Trump and Trump's recent executive actions in the proper context, you have to acknowledge that in some sense, what he's done is a continuation and an escalation of things that occurred under Obama's administration. So, I mean, if you look at the so-called Muslim ban or travel ban or whatever you want to term it, a lot of the underlying policy rationale that the Trump administration's spokespeople have cited themselves comes from policies that were implemented by the Obama administration. So there is probably more of a continuation there, or a bipartisan sort of consensus than people like Al Green want to admit, but it does exist, and I think that's necessary to acknowledge if we're going to get anywhere, right? So, what I wanted to just do was see if he would acknowledge that plain fact, because it's not disputed. I'm going to just show you the citation here on my phone, which I have up, because don't take my word for it. There is ABC News. Obama has deported more people than any other president. Okay, so that was October 29th or August 29th, 2016. There's a number increased since then. I don't even think you have to come down one way or another on the immigration policy debate to simply acknowledge that as a factual premise that needs to undergird any forthcoming debate about whether or not what Trump is doing is proper. Because if you can't just do that basic acknowledgement, you're sort of in this weird limbo where it's just sort of this partisan game that doesn't ultimately mean anything in a fundamental sense. And I think that's kind of what people are sick of. So I asked Congressman Green if he was aware of that, if he would acknowledge that fact. He just weirdly denied it without quite forthrightly denying it. Like, he kind of just flipped it on me as if I was trying to go out of my way to demean President Obama, and even which I was not. And even if I was, like, who cares? He's a president. He got demeaned every day for 8 years and longer than that. But he sort of he kind of like adopts this weird protective posture about President Obama. And I've written at various times favorably about Obama, but I don't have this kind of like, I don't know, emotional attachment to him where I feel like I have to be defending him just for its own purpose or on its own merits. So that's just sort of weird. And then what he did was he accused me of being he offered me the condescending handshake and then said, "Oh, you must be a Trump supporter. Congratulations on your further endeavors supporting Trump," which is just so stupid and vapid. But it's an effective conversation ender, because if you can just accuse somebody of being a Trump supporter, whether or not it has any basis whatsoever, and for me it does not. If anybody on the internet wants to try to find some quote or some citation where I stated my support for Trump, feel free to find it and send it to me, but it doesn't exist, so don't bother. But what they do, what the animosity that Trump provokes is it gives people like Congressman Green an easy out when they're challenged on various issues, where they could just say, "Oh, you must support Trump, or you must want to abet Trump or enable Trump, so therefore you're not worth engaging with any further," and that's just ridiculous. So that was the purpose of my conducting the interview, and Yeah, I mean, I think that it's worthwhile not to if you're even if there's a congressman who you might agree with on a fair amount of issues, and Congressman Green is by all counts a progressive Democrat. I'm sure there are many things on which I agree that he's done. But so what? I mean, he's still there's still areas of disputation that you can probe if you're in his physical presence, and that's what I chose to do. And he didn't like it very much. So, what are you gonna do? I think I may write something along these lines for the TYT Medium account, to just try to laying out my thoughts in a more kind of structured format. Not that I feel like I have to justify asking congressmen confrontational questions, or it wasn't even confrontational. I mean, I don't think if you can watch for yourself, I don't think I was particularly harsh with him, rhetorically. Um, so that shouldn't need to be justified, but I think it's worth doing it anyway, just because I don't know, you always have critics. So I'm going to write that out, I think, for the TYT Medium page. I'm going to link to that in the description box. So subscribe to the TYT Medium page, create a Medium account if you don't have one. All the cool kids have a Medium account now, so you're missing out. You won't get the good seat at the lunch table if you don't have a Medium account. And then you could follow my own personal Medium account if you want, I guess. And I'm going to do be doing more writing for TYT by way of the Medium page. Um, so just be aware of that if you want. And that's about it. I hope you enjoyed my staring at you into the camera and just talking for a while. So that's that.